Yo.
Yo, what's good, nigga?
Yeah, what's good, boy? Yo, where you at, man?
What do you mean where I'm at? I'm at the bench, son. You taking forever, B.
Oh, you over at the bench? Copy, I'm about to pull up.
I pull up, I'm here.
Oh, where you at? Alright, copy. Told you I was coming, but what's up, though? What's
What's
that,
good,
man?
bro? Oh.
Looking wait for a nigga, I'm right here. What's up?
Damn, bro. You sneaky bastard. Jewel talk. It's Jewel talk.
Yeah. What's good, everybody? Welcome to Jewel Talk.
Jewel talk.
Jewel Talk.
Jewel talk.
Jewel Talk.
Jewel talk. Spin number jewels, you heard?
I'll be your host, Mac More Money.
And I'm Finesse Leo.
That's a fact, guys. Welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back to the show, man.
Episode 52. You already
yes,
know.
sir. Yes, sir.
And
we break through the halfway mark, so we getting there. Road to 100. You know what I'm saying?
Rolling dice out here.
Yeah, rolling the dice. You know what I'm saying? So
we have a very special guest today.
Very, very special guest. So this is somebody that that me and Maceo met when we were teenagers, and he's like somebody that we like basically looked up to in a way because he's a very positive, role model, a positive person, very knowledgeable, very, very down to earth and calm person. So we would like to introduce to you one of our OGs. We feel. Can we say that?
You certainly can.
Yes. Okay. One of our OGs, brother Ujima. Welcome, sir. Thank you for stopping by. Thank
Not
you
a
for
problem.
Welcome.
All right.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. So basically, we wanted to have Ujima here today because, like I said, he's somebody that we feel is really knowledgeable. He helped us a lot, especially when we was growing up, going to college. When we was first starting college, he would meet us in the library. Was very hands on, helping me when I did my first interview with David Banner, the rapper David Banner. He came up with the questions and helped me do the interview. You know what I mean? So I always appreciated him for that. So I always wanted to sit down. Once we started the podcast, I always wanted to sit down and get to know you more because I only interacted with you at school and stuff like that because Maceo met you before me. So can you talk about how you met Maceo? How you met Ujima?
Well, if you want to tell a story, you can go ahead.
No, I like to hear your version.
Well, it's so bad. I believe it was my senior year or junior year when I was working at Pathmark, and then I just happened to
high school.
Yeah, and then I think we was just exchanging words because you was like buying something, and then all of a sudden we just got a connection grew after that. It was just really a short conversation, and then we kind of gave me your number. And then we stayed in contact throughout so many years from senior year of high school to now.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. I just seem to have, for some reason, a natural ability to connect with young people, especially those people who are positive. And one of the things that impressed me is that you're able to take the time, and you were very expressive in terms of your feelings about certain things that were going on at the time, and in a very conscious and positive manner.
Thank you.
So for that reason, as he said, we exchanged numbers and we formulated the bond that is lasting until this day.
Yes. And so I remember Maceo was kind of telling me, oh, I met this guy Ujima, you know what I mean, and he's a cool dude. He's I like him a lot, and I was like, oh, and then when I started working there at Pathmark, then I finally met him. I finally met Ujima, so and that was cool. And then we built from there, and then so now I want to get into your origins. Really, that's the whole main reason why. I wanted to get to know you more. So can you give us
first
give us a meaning of your name.
Yeah. What's the meaning of your name? Yeah, that's
a good question. What
is your full name? Can you if you would like to say?
First of all, my full name is Ujima Abdul Halim Jami. Now, see, you're getting something that most people don't get. They usually get the initials, A.H. Jami, but I don't mind sharing that because it has a very significant meaning. And first of all, the name Ujima is from Swahili, Kiswahili. Those who are familiar with Kwanzaa have heard that name because it's one of the principles. And it means one who is a brother to his people, one who helps them solve their problems, and one who tries to improve his community. And the rest of my name is from the Arabic, and Abdul means slave or servant of, and whatever follows that has to be the Creator. All right. Now, when I say slave, don't get don't get it twisted. Okay, because just like if you're familiar with the story of Kunta Kinte, who was a real person, the story told Roots, and of course Roots came out actually 3 times. You know, the most recent wasn't that long ago. So some people may be familiar with it, but he told each generation in his family, behold the only one greater than yourself. So when we say slave, that means we are slave to no one else except for the Creator. So this is what kept him going and his descendants going, because regardless of who called himself their master or whatever, in his mind, he was only slave to the Creator, the Most High. Yes. And that was it. And so the rest of the name are names of the Creator, or Halim, meaning he is mild and he's merciful and compassionate in character, and also Jami means the gatherer, the collector. Okay, and the significance of my whole name together with the African roots as well as the Arabic roots is the fact that we are one people. And though most people don't know this, the first Arab was an African named Yarab. And there's so much that we don't know in our history that is phenomenal, and it's very significant. We're taping this broadcast during the very last part of Black History Month, but Black History deserves more than a month.
It's forever. It's forever.
More than a month.
It's forever.
I agree. Now, can you give us a little summary of like your upbringing?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So where are you from? Where you come from?
That's a good question. I was born in Brooklyn. Okay, and it's very funny because the part of Brooklyn that I came from is called Gowanus. Most people never heard of it, but nevertheless, I ran it. My ex-girlfriend. Okay, I saw her one day, and she came to visit her parents, and she had her husband there with her. And as I was leaving, I overheard him say something about Gowanus. And I said, no, he couldn't have said Gowanus. Nobody heard of Gowanus. So I went back in, and so I said, excuse me, but did you say something about Gowanus? And he said, yeah. He said, I'm from Gowanus. I said, well, I'm from Gowanus. So he said, no, you're not. Who did you know? So I named the people that I knew, and now, keep in mind, I left there when I was 3.5. But I still had ties with some people. And he was so shocked because he said, you know what? The people that you named were the best people that came out of Gowanus. And I was like, wow. You know what I'm saying? So I only, elaborate on that because it's part of, my roots, my upbringing. And I didn't even know that they were the best people, But one thing I could always say is that I came from good stock. As I see you came from good stock. You had a good set of people who had very serious family values, and substance, in your growth and development, and that's so important. That's so important. As I said, I came out when I was 3.5 to Long Island with my family, of course, and we settled in Roosevelt. And we were one of actually, that story itself is mind blowing.
You was one of the first black families to come to Roosevelt?
Well, when Roosevelt started being developed. And I'm going to say that only because of the fact that I've found out recently there were black people in Roosevelt, but only, a handful here and there that go back even to 40 years before I got there. You know what I'm saying? Okay. But they're rare.
I mean, give us like a year. When did you come to Long Island?
Okay, well, I came to Long Island in January of 1957 or that. Okay.
And so this is mainly white.
Yeah,
that's
white.
But you gotta let them know give them the setting.
Transition.
Yeah.
I was definitely a part of the transition. But one thing that was very interesting about Roosevelt that a lot of people also don't know, and I found this out from my mother because she worked in the census. which is the first census that actually included Roosevelt, in 1960. And she said that a white person had told her when she asked him, well, what made you come out to Roosevelt? He said, because every ethnic group was represented in Roosevelt. And I was like, what? There were even Portuguese in Roosevelt.
Oh.
There were people, mostly it was Jewish people.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then other, what we call white people or whatever, Italian, this and the other.
Europeans.
But there were definitely Portuguese here, and I found that confirmed later on. And there were also some black people. Some black people didn't live in the best conditions.
Mm-hmm.
But when we came out to Roosevelt, two things. Number one, our house was built for us. Number two, something I didn't find out until my mother died. Okay, and that is one of the best friends who later on became the head of Long Island NAACP. She was recalling about my mother when she passed that she initially had no interest in coming out to Roosevelt Freeport. And at that time, black people only lived on the southern part of Roosevelt and the very northern part of Freeport. Okay. And he said, but my mother was so adamant. She went and picked out a lot for her. She found a real estate broker for her.
Okay.
And she taught her how to get the best possible price for the property. And she also told her she said, I want you to go because they have such a good school district. So I was like, wow. And I also know that my mother belonged to a group of people. It was a group of maybe like 9 women from the projects there who band together and they work together to help each other pay the rent and help each other move out as a collective body to the Roosevelt Freeport area.
That's real womanhood right there.
Absolutely,
that's real womanhood.
It was those kind of times though. You had a lot of. I wouldn't really say that was unique at that time because a lot of times when people couldn't pay rent, they had rent parties. Yeah. People took care of each other's children. At that time, listen, let me tell you something.
It was more normal to see that.
Oh, it was normal. As a matter of fact, you better not get in trouble back then.
Yeah. See, those are the times where your neighbor was allowed to get you.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Now you can't do that no more.
No. Not only your neighbor, your teacher.
Yeah. My mom told me about that plenty of times. Facts.
And I found out, as I found out later on, and I went to a program that was in a whole nother town, Lakeview, and this person was from Hempstead, and they were speaking about how they had found out that, unbeknownst to them, that the different opportunities we had, the opportunities to go on picnics, the opportunity to go to camp, the opportunities we had, what was called the African American Experience, which was a whole black consciousness effort at Hofstra and Adelphi University, where blacks from all over Long Island came together. When we were in the high school age or even sometimes elementary, and all of this was orchestrated by our parents. Our parents had met together, and they had a bond which we didn't even know about.
Okay, that reminds me back then too.
Their whole purpose in moving from Brooklyn, Manhattan, or wherever to Long Island was to give a better opportunity for their children.
Yes.
Everything they did was for the benefit of their children.
That just reminded me because back when we was in elementary school, they had something called the PTA. Where
Absolutely.
Stuff like that.
PAL. And that reminds me of, that kind of sounds like our story because that was the whole reason why my parents wanted to move out here. My mom really wanted to, because we came from a rough neighborhood. We came from Jamaica, Queens, so that area is it could be pretty tough. And we was young. We moved here when we was 4 or 5 years old, 2002. So she, and I always asked her why, it's so, because it's so expensive out here and stuff like that. I'm like, yo, mom, when my parents was having trouble paying the bills, I used to be asking them, Mom, why you moved out here if it's if you're having trouble with it? And they would tell it's a better condition for you guys, better condition, better schooling, stuff like that. So I never really thought about it like that, So
until you get a little bit older.
I can relate to your story. I can definitely relate to your story. Definitely.
Well, I definitely didn't really understand that as much at the time. although most of my uncles, aunts, and stuff like that were still in the city. Until one day I was talking to one of my cousins, and he grew up in Manhattan, the lower part of Manhattan, and he was telling me about his school experience, and he was talking about, oh man, it was rough. He was talking about the gates they had. It was sort of like what happened later on, when you had to be buzzed in, you had to be scanned and all that kind of. It was really rough experience, and I was like, I am so glad that I didn't have to grow up in those kind of conditions, because I was like, wow, So I was very appreciative, and but like you said, I saw the community transition. Matter of fact, believe it or not, I was close friends with a guy by the name of Howard Stern. I don't know if you heard of him or not.
Wow.
But
wow. So, he's from Long Island, right?
He's from Roosevelt.
He's from Roosevelt.
Yes.
Okay, copy. I forgot he is. He is from Long Island. That's a fact. So you kind of grew up with Howard Stern, basically.
I used to go over his house every day and play.
Wow. Yes, wow. Shout out to Howard Stern. Yeah, shout out to him, man. That's crazy.
And believe it or not, he still talks about it.
Wow, really? He still does he knows you by your Muslim name, or did he?
Well, now he does, because what happened was before he was preparing to do his movie, he wanted to go to Roosevelt High School, and that didn't work out. And then he was trying to have people try to get in touch with me, because he knew that we were close and everything like that. And it just so happened that I was on the Long Island Railroad one day, and this white guy was sitting next to me. And we just got to talking. You know how people do the small talk thing and stuff like that. So I think I had said something about radio or whatever. And so he asked me where I was from, and I think I said Roosevelt. He says, oh. He said, I work with a guy from Roosevelt. I said, really? Who's that? And he said, Howard Stern. I said, Howard Stern? I said, are you serious? He said, yeah, I'm his producer. I'm like, what? I said, well, listen. I said, do me a favor. This is my number. You give it to Howard Stern and see what he says. And next thing you know,
he hit you.
He called me on the phone and put me on the air.
Shout out to him. Shout out to Howard.
So, and that was very interesting. As a matter of fact, most people have told me, you'd be surprised when you listen to his show. I'm going to tell you right now. But most people have told me that was the best show that he ever did.
Wow. See, it's crazy because Howard Stern, growing up, he was known as, like, to me, just like the crazy, outlandish radio show. That's what So that's really interesting that he had you on and stuff like that. And knowing the type of person I didn't even think he knew about those type of things.
Well, actually, some of that is a role playing on the radio, because you got to remember he came up in the time of Imus. He came up in the time of Imus, and that was his competitor. Those kind of shock jockeys.
Yeah, shock value.
But it's very interesting, because I was in radio myself, and I actually the first time I heard that he was in radio, I really didn't. My brother, who grew up he was in Washington D.C. He was on the Washington Post. Now he has his own national broadcast for all the minority journalists in the country, called Journalisms. But anyway, he sent me an article about this guy in Washington D.C. that was on the radio, named Howard Stern. And when he sent me the picture, I was like, nah, that's not him. Because he looked so different. You know what I'm saying? And it sounded, the description of him, nah, he was a nice, quiet little Jewish kid. What are you talking about? That can't be him. And sure enough,
wow, that's him.
It was him. But, it was, like I said, it was a very interesting time. The community transition, and one of the reasons why the transition was because of what we call real estate greed. Okay, and what I mean by that is the fact that, as I said, my house was built for us, and so were a lot of the other in the neighborhood. Matter of fact, there was one particular street that we went down. It was a dirt road, and my car got stuck in it. My parents' car got stuck in it. But so anyway, sort of like the settlement of this country, eventually you get to the point where there's no other place to go. So there were no more houses left. All the lots were all built. So there's no more houses. So what did the real estate developers do? Decide to do in Roosevelt? Well, what they decided to do was, all right, in order for them to make money, was to break into the white people's houses and then spread the word that it was black people who did it.
Wow.
Meanwhile,
crazy.
The police didn't do anything.
That's crazy.
Another thing they would do.
Crazy.
Another thing they would do was that they would let's say I'm just using father for example. They would go to a house of a white person and have your father with them, and they say you ask the father to just wait for a minute on the curb while he goes in the house. So he goes to the door, rings the doorbell, white lady answers. And he says, "Oh, I'm so and so and so from such a real estate company, and I understand you want to sell your house."
Yeah.
She said, "Oh, well, no, I don't know where you got that idea from. I'm not interested in selling my house." But so he would say, "Well, you see that black gentleman there, and pointing to your father, whatever." And she said, "Yeah. Well, he was interested in buying your house because his brother just moved across the street with his 10 kids." And she would say, 10 kids? What?
Oh,
Next thing you know, there's a for sale sign on the house.
Dirty. They were playing real dirty. Gosh.
So,
man.
I mean, this is all true. This is all
Yeah, I can believe it because they did those type of staging tactics today, like during the riots and stuff that we had for George Floyd. They were doing those type of things, so I totally believe it.
Yeah, but it was a good thing and a bad thing. Of course, I still miss a lot of the white folks that I went to school with. And like that.
I feel you.
But it was a good thing because, in the sense that black people proved that they could make it on their own and do well. And let me just explain something.
The whole welfare system and everything like that.
Let me just explain something. When I moved to Roosevelt, I lived on Frederick Avenue. Now, there was a guy. There were several people who built their own houses. I mean, black people that actually built their own houses. There was a doctor on my down the street from me whose house was in Ebony magazine. Okay, another doctor around the corner. There were a guy across the street from me. I never really knew this until much later. Was a World War II hero, and when I say World War II hero, I'm just not saying just anybody. No, his naval crew was part of the crew that won World War II for the United States.
Wow.
Okay, that's called the USS Mason. His name was James Graham, and the same way people talk about the what's the Air Force thing? The red you know the name of it.
Wait,
the flyers,
the black flyers?
Yeah.
Yeah, the red tails?
The red tails,
yeah,
right.
Yeah, okay.
They, who did the same thing from their aspect, they had the same impact. And it was really interesting because if you study history, and I have to say this because it's black history, right? Black people have literally won every single war that America has fought. Even though many times they said, well, we don't want black people to write. Oh, you got to stay here. You got to have a white commander. You got to do this. And they gave them all kind of hell. Matter of fact, a lot of people don't realize the civil rights movement. I mean, we can talk about Martin Luther King. We can talk about Rosa Parks. We can talk about these different issues. But one aspect that was very significant that people don't realize or talk about was the black veterans who came home. Because what happened is after they fought for this country, they fought hard.
Yes.
And they were very proud of the role they did. And they won the war, like I said, for this country. Then they came back home and got discriminated against.
Wow.
They couldn't find housing. Or if they did get housing, it was, your house don't have a basement. Your house is 3 times the house in Levittown, but you can't go in Levittown because it's white
I was
only.
just about to bring up Levittown because when they were, like you just said, when they came back from the war, for the GI Bills, the black soldiers like, oh, we want to move to Levittown too, and they was like, no, only for white people, and redlining them, and that's what I learned about redlining, where and it started to learn. Oh, that's why I grew, because growing up, I'm like, shit. Pardon me. I'm like, why is it like certain areas old, bad, and then you go to down the block, it's nice.
Nice,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like it bugs me out. It really bugs me out, and I'm like, when I started doing the history, learning about like you said, the history of them building the houses around here in the suburbs and everything. I'm like, wow, it all makes sense of how everything is set up. You know what I mean? It really crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, and they systematically do it to keep us in certain areas and to keep us segregated. Basically, it's just pure segregation. Basically,
right. But like I said, it was good as well as bad. And one of the good things, like I said, we proved ourselves. They had a place called the Sportsman 30. It was on Babylon Turnpike. Presently, it's a Catholic home for women or whatever. But when I say Sportsman 30, it was a club with a swimming pool, and they had a similar one upstate New York that was put together by 50 black businessmen. Okay, that came out of the Roosevelt Freeport area, and that's it. And when I say 50, I mean they weren't the only black businessmen at that time. There were so many black businesses, it wasn't funny. I mean, we had cleaners, we had taxi people, we had at least 3 oil businesses. We had, I mean, you name it. We were like all over the place, and like I said, we excelled. In terms of the high school, Roosevelt High School was undefeated for 3 years.
Wow.
And several teams, not just basketball, football, but wrestling. I mean, they were doing the thing. We had a planetarium. Nobody had a planetarium. And there were so many things, and so many people came out of Roosevelt. And of course, I'm not putting any other place down, because Hempstead has its people. They came out of Hempstead. Joe Tex is one example. Shirley Ralph is another example. Method Man is another example.
Oh yeah, facts.
Right.
Before he came from Staten Island, he came from Hempstead, and Mob Deep, Prodigy.
Right, I was going to say
Prodigy from Hempstead too.
Well, listen, let me tell you something about Prodigy, because I met Prodigy.
You did? Wow. That's one of my personal rap heroes.
But listen,
I love Prodigy.
Let me tell you something. I met him. I went all the way out to Queens. He was speaking. He had written a book. He actually read a couple books. And he wrote a book about his illness.
Sickle cell.
Right, sickle cell, to encourage people to, get checked.
And eat better.
And so forth and so on. So he was speaking at one of the black libraries there. A friend of mine was the director. And so I went out there, and when I met him, and I asked him, would he be willing to come out to speak to, the people out at Roosevelt Library? He said, Roosevelt, oh yeah, man, wow, that's home. That's home. Facts. What I'm saying? Well, I said, I thought you was from Hempstead. Well, Hempstead, Roosevelt, same thing.
When it comes to Long Island, honestly, and one thing, growing up, like, even though we originally from Queens, but we kind of like Long Island, raised us in a way. So it's like, we growing up, we always faced the boroughs always discriminated against us, like always slept on us, like, oh, we was whack, we was corny, boring, and I'm like, so many figures, Rakim, all these people, Public Enemy, like Chuck D, Flavor Flav, they all came. Some of the greatest rap artists that started the culture came from out of Long Island.
And that's why they call Strong Island. But Strong Island. Let me just say this, because you mentioned it, and I have to say this, and it's not from an ego tripping standpoint, but I had a lot to do with their history. Not Rakim, but you mentioned Public Enemy. You mentioned, because what happened is, I built some of the people that came. My oldest brother was in the first graduating class. My second graduating class from Roosevelt High School, and which was actually built because of a famous celebrity that came out of Roosevelt by the name of John Mackey.
Okay. Who's John Mackey?
Yeah. John Mackey. He was with the NFL, and he was
he's a football player.
Wow. He was exceptional. He was very exceptional. Matter of fact, very interesting sidebar about John Mackey. Let me tell you why the school was built after him, because at that time, Roosevelt didn't have a high school. So when you got to that level, you had the choice to go to Freeport High School or Hempstead High School. Yeah. And he chose to go to Hempstead High School. So when he got to the NFL and he got all these accolades, they said John Mackey from Hempstead. And boy, did that make Roosevelt upset. Roosevelt was so upset. They were like, yo, we got to go to high school.
Got to get to school, yeah.
So they had what they call junior senior high school. And that's where we grew up until very recently when they actually finally decided to build a middle school and have a separate.
Yeah, that's what I was like. Because junior C is like middle school through graduation.
Right. So here's a side note about John Mackey. 2 things that came from him, and that was. He had suffered a very serious injury, which led to his death. Like brain injury and stuff like that. And so, if you're familiar with the concussions and stuff like that, that movement actually started with what happened to John Mackey.
So, like CTE and all those things.
It started with what happened to John Mackey, and then of course,
why did he started having mental issues? What? How did he die? He killed himself or something?
No, he didn't kill himself. Okay, but I'm just saying it affected him, and he was speaking slow and stuff like that. All of that. Okay, gotcha. And of course, Muhammad Ali's situation really popularized that movement. Okay, but here's another thing, another side note. Another Long Islander by the name of Jim Brown. Okay.
Jim Brown? Wait, the football player?
The football player.
Wait, he's from Long Island?
He's from Manhasset, Great Neck, exactly.
You're lying. Jim Brown, the civil rights activist.
Jim Brown, that's correct.
You're lying. You're lying.
Listen, he's from Long Island. All the people that's from... Wow. Listen, Tatiana Ali is from North... Belmont.
She's from Belmont, First Prince of Bel-Air.
Yeah. Wow. I told you other people that came along, you'd be shocked. Even now this is before your time. And I'll give you a minute.
Yeah. Continue.
Okay. Even before your time, there's a white girl named Sandra Dee. And she was the first Gidget. And she made movies. She got married to Bobby Darin. She actually lived in Roosevelt, 2 doors from the high school. Okay, so Roosevelt has its history and so many. But the side note I was going to say about John Mackey is the fact that I learned a long time ago that Jim Brown discovered Earth, Wind & Fire.
Wow.
And there was another group called Friends of Distinction. They made Go in the Circles and Grazing the Grass as the Gas.
Yeah, I know Earth, Wind & Fire for sure. I don't know the other band.
Okay, well, the second girl I had in that group actually came from the Friends of Distinction, and those songs were very popular. But anyway, nevertheless, okay. So I was very curious when Maurice White from Earth, Wind & Fire, he died, and I had a book that he wrote as well as one that Philip Bailey. So I'm comparing notes, and I want to see that story and get it accurate. And I said, wait a minute. Now Jim Brown, what they say about Jim Brown? And so I read that, and then I remember that I just had got a book that Jim Brown wrote, his autobiography. So I look in the book to see what he had to say about Earth, Wind & Fire. And so when I get to that part, he says that his next door neighbor, John Mackey, told him that he should check out this group called Earth, Wind & Fire. And I was like, wow. I said, that's deep. Here this guy from Roosevelt.
He plugged them in. Plugged them in.
Exactly. So, it's phenomenal. Okay, but getting back to that history I was saying, okay, so what happened was, like I said, the classes were phenomenal. My brother was the kind of person, my oldest brother, who introduced me to all of his friends. So even though he was 6 years older than me, I knew all of his friends.
Yeah.
Okay, and they were phenomenal. There's some really serious history with them. Wow. Okay, and so later on, when I was working at the Roosevelt Youth Center, okay, after I had been on the radio, was a what they call a gopher. Somebody goes in the store or whatever, for a guy by the name of, he calls him Imhotep, Gary Bird. Okay, and he was on WRL, and Gary Bird.
What?
WRL at the time, which was in Queens. Okay, St. Albans, Queens. Not St. Albans, Woodside, Queens.
Oh, Woodside.
Okay. And who has since going on to write several things with Stevie Wonder, including a song called Black Man, which is a phenomenal Black history piece. Yeah. But anyway, and then after I came back from college in Ohio, I started working with some of the people at WBLS. And based on the experience I had with those people, I set up a radio training program at the youth center. Out of that radio training program, okay, it was called WRYC. They're named after the Roosevelt Youth Center, obviously. The center was having some kind of program, and nobody was coming to the program. So I'm like, yo, what's up? I said, give me them flyers. So I took the radio, some of the DJs I was training, and And we went to First Roosevelt Park with the Flyers, and we just played for free. And that didn't do anything. So we said, what the heck with that? So we went to Centennial Park, and we were the first DJs to come to Centennial Park. And we became a mobile DJ group called, which I gave the name, Spectrum.
Spectrum?
And Spectrum, or Spectrum City, as it became later on, actually evolved into what today we call Public Enemy. Okay, so I had a part of that history, and also I gave talent shows.
That's crazy.
I was running youth council. I had college expo program.
Can I ask you this? Yeah. So
Go ahead.
when did you really start officially getting into your community, like community activism? When did you?
That's very easy. When I was 16.
When you were 16?
Oh, so early.
When I
Been
was
about
16.
the community. Been about.
Yes, I was 16.
What piqued your interest in it? Though?
Yeah. What piqued your
Okay,
interest?
well, this is what happened. What happened is, this was around the time that the Black Panthers and Black nationalism, more like the Black consciousness, became popular.
Yep.
And what happened was, I had found out, me and a group of other people had found out that at the Roosevelt Youth Center, which originally was a Jewish synagogue, okay, and there was still some white people here at the time. Okay, there was white people that were tutoring our young people and we were like incensed because we were like, what? We could do that ourselves. You know what I'm saying? What? So we went down there to the youth center, and we just told them, like, look, we appreciate what you're doing and stuff like that, but we got this. And to their credit, they was like, no problem. We understand. And one of the students that I started tutoring was a guy by the name of Howard Jenkins, and his father was the head of the in Rockville Center, Southside High School. He was the head of the English department, and later on he became, until his recent death, the chairman of the African American Studies Department at Nassau Community College.
Wow, that's crazy because I told you I took the African American Studies class.
Oh, okay. Did you take it with him?
No, it wasn't him. It was a lady in Africa.
Marquita James, probably.
I forgot her name. She had like dreadlocks.
Oh, okay. No,
She was young for her age. So.
Oh, she was young. Okay.
Yeah.
But I went to say Emma. But anyway, so what happened is, so he was so excited with the way he couldn't deal with algebra, and I made it so easy for him.
Yeah.
I said math could be fun, and I told him that Black people invented algebra. Black people invented math. You know what I'm saying? So I said, there's no way you can't do this because we invented it. So what are you talking about? And so what happened is he took me over to his house, introduced me to his father. And his father had such a fantastic library. It was out of this world. And his father took me, to the side and told me about the importance of reading, which of course I grew up in a house where reading was important anyway. But, I had never seen so many books, and especially on Black history. And it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And, and that, why at the age of 16 I really started becoming involved in the community, especially after I was introduced to a young lady, Dr. Emily Moore, and she's definitely a figure. She was considered the Angela Davis of Long Island.
Wow. Okay, copy. That says a lot. That really says a lot.
Yeah.
So I wanted to getting more into your life. I wanted to know when did you get introduced to Islam? So like, what was your? Can you tell us your American name before? Like, your born name.
My
when
government
you was born.
name.
Your government name. Yeah.
I don't usually tell people, but it was it was Alan Prince, I guess.
Alan Prince.
Yes.
Okay.
I think the Prince part is kind of significant, but nevertheless, okay. Well, what happened was, as I mentioned, there was a transition in the community. And, Howard Stern had left with his parents right after Julius Erving, another person that came out of Roosevelt.
He's from Roosevelt. Julius or Dr. J?
Absolutely. If you go down Nassau Road right now, you're going to see...
Oh, yes. I was... Yo, actually, you bugged me out. You just bugged me out. I was always wondering why I said Julius Erving. I was like, that can't be the same Julius Erving. NBA Julius Erving. For the Sixers, Julius Erving.
Listen, let me tell you, Julius is definitely from Roosevelt.
Wow.
He has done so much for Roosevelt. I couldn't even tell you how much he did for Roosevelt.
Wow.
and
Centennial Park. If facts. Centennial Park
Well,
right there.
he was one of the people who dedicated Centennial Park, and he used to bring the NBA and record stars down to Centennial Park. And when Roosevelt High School was on a deficit, he was still at the Nets. They dedicated certain Nets games, some of the proceeds from the Nets games to Roosevelt, so that they could buy uniforms and support the athletic program. And also, he had a hand in. And he doesn't like to say this, but he had a hand in the PAL Center.
Oh wow, that's great.
So and every year he would address the students either at what was then called Theodore Roosevelt, now it's called Ulysses S. or Centennial. So the graduating class, he would always do that. So he had a hand, and I was fortunate to. The president of my class when I was 16 was his brother Marvin, and that's another important fact because Marvin. He was, as the expression goes, ahead of his time. He was, whatever I was into, he was into something beyond that that I had never even thought about. Like I was with the Junior Naval Reserve, right? And I was like, I thought that was something. And then one day we went to the Armory and we visited there, and they had the Civil Air Patrol, going on, and he was part of that. And I was like, whoa, y'all learned how to jump out of planes and the whole night. That was like a whole nother, his friends were the best people in the class. You know what I'm saying? He was a newsday carrier on my block and everything like that. All the adults knew his name and respected him. I'm like, how did these people know him?
He's looked up highly too.
How did he know him? And then, unfortunately he died when he was 16. He had a rare disease. And that was unheard of back then for anybody at that young age to pass away like that. But his funeral was heavily attended. But it had an impact on me, as I'm sure other people of that time, because I felt, well, there was so much that he wanted to do and wasn't able to do that somebody has to carry that on. So I felt like I was carrying on that spirit for him because he couldn't do it himself.
Gotcha.
So that was important.
Getting back to the I kind of took you out.
We went to I'm sorry.
Yeah, so how was what was your start with like getting introduced to Islam? Like, did you grow up like religious? Like, did you grow up?
Oh yes, I definitely grew up in a religious household. My parents. Used to go to church, and I was active in that church. Matter of fact, the pastor was around my oldest brother's age, so we were really close like that. My father was not only in the choir, but he was a deacon, and my second oldest brother, who was a deacon for the church too. So I
So he was a fan of it, a fan of being in church. Like, did you like being in church?
I had no problem. I had no problem at all. You know what I'm saying? My family was very well respected, well known, and this, that, and the other, and. So that was it. But the reason why I was going back to the story, because what happened was, as the transition took place in the Roosevelt community from, let's say, white to black, we were still having assemblies that we couldn't really relate to as a people. I mean, they had the
assemblies during the community, or you talking
about
in the schools?
In the school, assemblies. In other words, they had NASA come. At that time, we wasn't into NASA. They had. They had the military people come, and it wasn't really feeling that because this is the Vietnam era, and then they had these orchestras come, and and I had to do something about it because when the orchestra came, people said, "Oh, do y'all know any James Brown?"
Actually, I told you, I'm reading Maceo Parker's book right now. I'm trying to get into that.
Yes, Maceo was bad. Maceo was bad. Yes.
Your name. Continue.
So what happened was, I said, I got to do something about this. And so what happened is, this was just that summer. I sat down and I came up with 12 assemblies. And not only did I come up with 12 assemblies that black people could relate to, I actually contacted the people and I did all the work. And the only thing I needed was to go to the administration and get the okay.
Wow.
That's how into it I was. And it actually had taken place. One of the people was a guy named Ellis Hazup, who had a show on Channel 13. They just doing his niece just
that was still PBS at that time.
Yes, PBS.
Okay.
And it was called Soul.
Soul.
And it preceded Soul Train. And when people was on Soul, it was live, and they had all the top names. Oregon Fire's first national exposure was on there. Ashton Simpson. There's so many people I could name. Not only in terms of entertainment, musical entertainment, but poets. All the black poets. They had Last Poets, Nicky Giovanni, so forth and so on. They had black leaders, Farrakhan, Jesse Jackson, you name it. Everybody, every genre that was black was on this program, and I brought him to the high school. And what had happened was, he was well respected because we had senior high and a junior high, like I said. So they had two different assemblies. Senior high respected him greatly, boom, boom, and what he had to say was really serious. Now in the junior high, they had got caught up in something that was different era. So they gave him a hard time, and there was a lot of noise and stuff while he was speaking and stuff like that. And then they really disrespected him, but his message was so strong. I was like, yo, this guy is heavy, man. That what happened is I had a lot of Jews and carpet at that time that I did the bulletin boards, and I did the bulletin boards in the high school based on the message that he was delivering, because he was talking. At that time, and now this was 1971. He told me, he said, watch out for cable TV. That's the next thing coming out. And this is 1971. We hadn't seen cable TV till, I don't know, maybe 6 years, 7 years later. So we told me about cable. I was like, okay. So a lot of stuff he told me before it actually happened. And so I wanted people to deliver that message. Now, when I put up the bulletin board, my best friend at the time, he looked at the board. I said, well, what do you think of the bulletin board? So he looked at the bulletin board. He said, oh, man, that's pretty heavy. He said, you sound like one of the Muslims. And at that time, those were fighting words to me. I was like, what? What are you talking about? So, different people, other people had said that, but I didn't really pay it any mind. But when my closest friend said that to me, I was like, well, wait a minute. There must be something to this. You know what I'm saying? So, based on
by Muslim, you talking about the NOI?
Well, at that time, that was popular. Okay. But that was popular at that time. So what I did is I investigated. I said, well, let me see what they're talking about. At that time, and of course, Nassau Community College played a very key role in this history too, because what had happened to it, the Harai, which was the Black Student Union at that time, had most of the leadership at that particular year was female. Okay, the guys were still assertive, but they weren't in the top positions. You know what I'm saying? So we was kind of like feeling some kind of way. So anyway, there were three guys that were Muslim that were on the campus at the college, and one day they were in a room and they were just speaking about the religion and so forth and so on. So I went in, boom, boom. So now I was on the outside and I was talking to women. At that time, I thought I was the women's best friend. Women's lib, that's great. All that stuff. But anyway, so they had me cornered because I was the only guy that wasn't in that room. And so they said, well, I see all the guys are in that room. What do you think about it? I said, well, they want to learn. They want to know what that's all about. I mean, they have that right. Yeah, but they teach such and such and such. And I said, well, they have a point. Yeah, but they say such and such and such. I said, well, actually, I did the research on that, and, I came to the same conclusion. Yeah, but they say, and they kept going back and forth, and I realized that every point that they were saying, I had found out on my own was true. You know what I'm saying? Even their position on women, which was different than mine at that time, I said, well, you know what? Because everything else they said was true. Maybe they have a point on that too. Because these women are giving me a hard time. So I went in the room and I listened to what they had to say, and I became Muslim.
And these
what
were
age was that?
Were these like black?
What age was that?
Yeah, what age was that?
Oh wow. Well, I became Muslim after my it was my 21st birthday.
21st. Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
So you
and
took
were
the
these black Muslims? They were like Arabic Middle Eastern Muslims.
These were black people who were Muslim.
Black people.
And
they
was
were
it
real
through
Muslim.
traditional Sunni Muslim?
Absolutely.
Sunni Muslim.
So you were dedicated to this religion? Like you really like?
Absolutely.
So you didn't. So let me ask you this,
But I did come through the Nation of Islam.
You did?
And because what happened is, or something I skipped, okay, was at that, between high school and that time, okay, the people I got closest to were Muslim. All the people I would be with were Muslim. And if they had to make salah, if they had to make prayer, and they were at my house, and they would ask, do you want to make salah? I would say, sure, go ahead. And sometimes I would join them, sometimes I wouldn't join them. You know? So this is who I really was around, because these were the people that had the most consciousness. These are the people that were going somewhere. They didn't want to get, the quote unquote white man's education. They wanted their own, teach their own and stuff like that. They were striving, and I respected that. And something else that happened too, speaking of colleges, was that I was on the ground floor of what they called the APO, the African People's Organization. And what happened was that all these different, and that's so unique, because we have Hofstra, we have Adelphi, we have CW Post, we have New York Tech, and we have somebody I forgot, Hofstra. I didn't say Hofstra, right? Okay, so we have these 5 schools in a close, proximity of each other. And so what happened is, we decided, or I should say, some of the brothers from this was another factor too, at Old Westbury decided that we should not be disunited like that. Whatever name we have, we should all come under one banner. So Old Westbury decided they would change their name to the APO, African People's Organization. Then they proceeded to go to Adelphi, who followed suit, CW Post, who followed suit, Hofstra, who followed suit, and Nassau said, no, we got Haraya, man. We're going to keep this. But we all started to meet together as one unit, at least once a month. And which was very, very important, because of the fact that at that particular time, I think it was Adelphi had a problem with the very key Black Studies professor they were trying to get rid of. And so we had a meeting, and they brought that up. And so somebody from Hofstra said, well, we had the same problem. And so we had a little break, and they said, well, listen, why don't you, Hofstra, sit down with Adelphi and tell them what you did. And see, one of the things that happened during these meetings, because the leadership at that time at Old Westbury, the leadership at Nassau, as I said, there was 3 Muslims. A lot of this leadership was Muslim. And at Delphi, they became Muslim, some of the leadership. So they would all stop at certain times to make salat. And like I said, in my house, I would, sometimes I make salat with them. So, they kept, stopping to make salat. So one day I said, you know what? I'm going to go make salat. I'm going to go see what they're doing. You know what I'm saying? So this
salat is prayer.
Yes. Okay. So this all contributed. It's always a part of me becoming Muslim. The fact that, again, people I was closest to, the incident with the guy from Seoul, plus, and then what happened at community college, but prior to that, like I said, the APO factor, because the leadership at Old Westbury, 2 of the people were Muslim. 3 of the people were Muslim. And Hofstra, the guy was Timothy X, he was into Malcolm X, but then you had another guy and 2 other people that were Muslim that was part of the leadership. You had, CW Post, guy named Ali, who started actually, who was one of the people that started the Malik fraternity. And
belief of what?
Fraternity. Right, and which is somewhat based on Islam, because they learned the names of, like, the creator. He has different names. He's like the most merciful, the most gracious, the most high, the truth, the source of peace, so forth and so on. So they learn these names and they master these names, and this is part of what they have an obligation to do something in the community. So that's what the Malik fraternity is about. And when I ran into these people, we had a bond, because that was based on Islam, and we still couldn't have a bond. So anyway, so like I said, Islam played that role. So it was a very natural evolution for me, And in Islam, we're constantly learning. you know. And there were some things I learned, by the way, that were just by what somebody else was going accident. What I mean is they had a station called W. No, that wasn't any of it. I was going to say WBA. All right, but that's not it. What it was, the all jazz station. Okay.
Is it all jazz?
Yeah.
All jazz.
All jazz station. And no, not WH1. But anyway, it was all jazz. This particular time, they decided they're not going to play any music. They was going to talk. And they decided to talk about the origins of Christmas. And it was very enlightening. And I just happened to turn it on, and they was talking about that. Nope, playing no music, and they was like kicking it. And I was like, wow, this is, oh man, I didn't know that. And what? And this, and this. You know, another time, like I was very, like I said, I had 12 Assembly, so I got to know a lot of people. I was connected with WBLS and WRL, so I got to know some famous people here and there, right? So I was calling this musician, I was calling this black activist, Sonny, his name's Sonny Carson. They did a movie on him, The Education of Sonny Carson.
Yeah, The Education, is that, right. That's the one with the gang fight, right?
Right.
What? Yeah, I just remember, because I just remember like Ghostface, he sampled that movie a lot in his album.
Well, let me tell you something. When that movie came out, he was in jail because he had got arrested. You know where he got arrested?
Why?
In Roosevelt.
In Roosevelt. Wow.
So I'm gonna tell you. See, Roosevelt is serious. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
And let me just a side note. Here's something I didn't know. I was very close with this couple, okay, who lived next door to a friend of mine that had graduated a year before me, and and the lady she lived next door to, her name was Prathia Hall Wynn. Okay, I just recently found out, just because I knew that she had a significant role in civil rights, but I didn't know to what extent. I just knew she was somebody's secretary because I got a tape from the library that went with this book, and they were talking about Dorothy Height, and Dorothy Height was an important civil rights figure, the NAACP and so forth and so on. And then she mentioned, and I was talking to Prathia, Wynn about such and such and such and such, and I'm like, Prathia Wynn, that's an unusual name. I said, that can't be. But there can't be another one. You know what I'm saying? So I asked somebody that knew and said, yeah, you didn't know that? So I was talking to somebody on the phone, and I was telling them, because we were looking up somebody's address on Brookside, and he asked me, well, did they live next door to the Winns? And so I said, well, let me look it up. I want to tell him about her. And he put me on hold because he got another call. So while I did that, I found out something I did not know, that she was so powerful a speaker that Martin Luther King borrowed the whole I Have a Dream concept from her.
Wow. Okay.
And he also stated that he hated to speak after her because she was that powerful.
Wow.
And I was like, what? I knew this lady all this time. I had no idea. And she lived right on Brookside Avenue in Roosevelt.
Wow.
I'm like, whoa.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So, so this is very significant.
And what was her name again?
Prathia Hall Wynn. And I say the whole name because sometimes you'll see it just as Prathia Hall.
Prathia Hall.
But her married name was Prathia Hall Wynn.
Gotcha.
I just like how throughout your whole life you've been surrounded by so many
you really.
So and
everybody's connected. Everybody's connected with each other somehow.
It's crazy. Good seeing.
Well, let me share something that Chuck D said. Okay, and I didn't mention the fact that, like I said, I had a talent show. In the talent show, there was a couple of comedians that I had MC the talent show that I managed. And one guy's name is Mitchell Kaiser, and you may not know his name, but the other guy who was his partner was a guy that's getting ready to come out with a movie called Coming to America 2.
Coming to America 2? They from Roosevelt. That's a fact. I knew that. Eddie Murphy and his brother Charlie Murphy, they grew like when they left Brooklyn, they came to Roosevelt.
Absolutely.
Same like you. Left Brooklyn, came to Roosevelt.
And I was his first manager.
Facts. In fact, you was his first manager?
Absolutely.
Wow. It's the GOAT. It's the GOAT right here. This is the OG. I told you. This is the OG. He was there from the beginning. Okay?
And you know what's funny? Because some people may say, oh yeah, right, whatever. You know, Howard Stern said the same thing. Because when Howard Stern called me on the phone, he put me on the air, he said, and he asked me, well, listen, so what have you been doing since high school? I said, well, you never believe this, but, I was Eddie Murphy's first manager. He said, get out of here. You probably gave him 2 words of advice.
And this is when he was on SNL or Saturday Night Live. I mean, was he already on TV on SNL or Coming to America already came out?
You talking about when I was working with Eddie?
Yeah, when you was working with Eddie. What was?
No, he was 16. He was young.
Oh, he was young.
In high school.
Okay.
But he was always had that comedy, and he always said that by the time he reaches 19, he'd be a household name.
Gotcha.
Man, he also made some music too.
Yes, he did. Party all the time. But nevertheless. So anyway, so you want something. So I was mentioning Eddie Murphy, but something that Chuck D said that was very important. Because you talked about going on Long Island, Strong Island, we call it now, and being ridiculed by the people from the city, and that's true. But he said in the 70s, okay, Julius Erving was the number 1 basketball player, right? And he came from Roosevelt. Okay, then you had. Eddie Murphy was the number 1 comedian, and he came from Roosevelt. Howard Stern became the number 1 shock jock. He came from Roosevelt. And then Public Enemy, who are now in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, was the number 1, and they came from Roosevelt. So one thing in common is not just the fact that these people came from Roosevelt, or even the people that came from other parts, like Biz Markie.
He's from Suffolk. They from Suffolk.
Right. EPMD and so forth and so on. Every one of them was a game changer.
Yes.
They weren't just a DJ or whatever field they were in.
Yeah.
Dr. J, he changed the NBA, literally. Because he was in the ABA, which is American Basketball Association, at the time.
Do it again.
And they had the freedom to do whatever they wanted. And the NBA was very restricted. So what happened was he would do some very outstanding moves that hadn't been seen before or whatever. And so when he did these jump shots and this, that, and the other, boom, boom, and the ABA eventually, fell apart after Julius got traded to Philly. And they merged with the NBA. Now the NBA
continue.
Had to be more free. And therefore you could get a Michael Jordan or LeBron James or whatever, because these were game changers. You know what I'm saying? The game change. Again, KRS-One, as long as he was with Scott LaRock, he was, he was talking about South Bronx, blah, 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 blah. But when Public Enemy came out, it became a different game. And now KRS-One became a different person. You know what I'm saying? Not that he wasn't talented or anything like that, but that's when he became strong. You know what I'm saying? And we find that in all these other examples of people that came out.
Yes.
That these strong. I mean, come on, Rakim. Who was like Rakim?
The God MC. They call him the God MC.
You know what I'm saying? So they changed the game, and so we can never let people sleep on it.
We can't, yo. And I'm not gonna lie. I basically had to take it on my back because growing up, my older brothers, we was like one of the first in our family to move to Long Island. Like my whole family's from the boroughs. Everybody's from the boroughs. So when we moved out of Queens, my older brothers used to tease us. Oh, you had a little Baldwin kids. Oh, you had a little Long Island. And I'm like, it's regular, because people always got the misconception, everybody in Long Island's rich. And I'm like, that's not true. That's not it's so, and I grew, and getting older now, I realize how segregated it was, even while going to high school, because I'm like, we live in North Baldwin. North Baldwin is closer to Hempstead, Roosevelt, Freeport. So it was like a mixture. It's regular middle class, but certain shit, certain things happen here and there, you know what I mean? So we always got and I always had that chip on my shoulder, it's everybody always, they always try to make us feel bad for coming out of Long Island. We always had to, coming out of Long, you always have to have that sense of, like you said, hunger, because you're always getting slept on. You're always getting overlooked. So when we do make it, we make such an imprint.
Right, and it's funny because you being in Bowen, when I came up, There were no blacks in bowling.
Yeah,
I know.
yeah.
Unheard of.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Well, bowling. And even Howard Stern said, bowling, are you kidding?
Yeah.
You know
That's what I'm saying.
You know, so, but, things evolved. Times change. But the point I made was that no matter what people say about us, the positive imprint that we made, the impact we had, even if you were talking about Jim Brown. Jim Brown came out of Long Island and he was a game changer. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Mariah Carey came out of Long Island.
Yeah, Mariah Carey, she is from Long Island.
I mean, even if you want to talk about Billy Joel or other people like
yes,
that. You know what I'm saying? They came out of Long Island.
And Dee Snider from Twisted Sister.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, he's from Baldwin. He's actually from Baldwin.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many people, that we definitely made our mark and impression. So people can't tell us anything. You know what I'm saying? Guy is Aaron Hall.
Aaron Hall?
He's from Roosevelt.
He's from Roosevelt. Wow, with Teddy Riley and all of them.
Right. And another guy I was close with. His name is Gabriel Cassius, and he was in Get on the Bus. He was in Black Hawk Down. He was in New Jersey Drive.
That's my movie right there.
He wrote a movie called Takers.
With T.I. and all them?
That's right. He wrote that movie.
Yeah.
He's from Roosevelt.
Wow.
See what I'm saying?
Damn, honestly, you're putting us on major, because there's a lot of stuff I didn't even know. You're putting me on to a lot of stuff.
And again, I'm not putting Freeport down. Freeport has some famous people.
Freeport. Yeah.
But, Freeport basically has been on the low, because when you read the biographies of people, the famous people that came out of Freeport, you'll hear they say, oh, he's from Long Island. And that's all they say.
Wow. Yeah.
They won't say I'm from Freeport, Long Island. Now, I guess since, I kind of put them on the spotlight, you may say it a little bit more. But, there's definitely some people that came out of Hempstead, came out of, like I said, Shirley.
Nah, definitely.
Method Man, whatever.
And I feel like right now, the youngins, definitely the new generation right now, the kids who are doing stuff, who are making music, the new kids who are making music right now, doing their stuff, doing their thing. They're really, I feel like now, is really trying to make a sense and bring Long Island back, because I feel like after those guys the Method Mans and all those people that came out, during the 90s and 80s and stuff, for a while, it slowed down. So now I feel like it's slow. Slow is a lot of talent out here. Definitely. What does he, besides music wise, just I know a lot of young people that are doing something out here, whether it be business, art, just a whole bunch of stuff. So I feel like it's a new generation, new wave got to come out of Long Island, because I haven't seen nobody really come out and really pop, or even if they did pop, they didn't even rep Long Island like that. There's still
some people don't want a jacket.
There's still some people don't want a jacket. But I'm proud of it. Of course I can't forget Queens, but it's Long Island kind of made me. It kind of you know what I mean. So
talking back to about the next generation. Do you have hope in the direction of them?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Matter of fact, that's one of the things that you just have to know how to speak to people. And like I said, I started when I was a youth. I was 16. I started working with other youth, and I've been doing so ever since. As a matter of fact, how I was able to work with Eddie Murphy and get some of the attention I get at the youth center was because of the fact that I would go to Eddie Murphy's classes with him.
Okay.
I looked so young at the time. Yeah. Nobody knew I wasn't. I graduated.
Yeah. You still could look like you was a teenager.
Right. Yeah. But one of the things we have to remember about young people is, because a lot of people my age and that era, we think, they don't know, they didn't go through nothing and stuff like that. Listen, let me just tell you something.
Yeah, there's a disconnect.
Okay? Let me tell you something. Sean Bell, they went through that. Trayvon Martin, Oscar Grant, Michael Brown, Eric Garner, Khalid Browder, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Nipsey Hussle, Chadwick Boseman, they helped elect Barack Obama and Biden. Okay, you had the Black Panther movie come out during that time. Hidden Figures come out. They went through the Million Man March, or the 20th anniversary of the Million Man March. You had the Million Women's March in 2017. They went through the whole, is it with Donald Trump? I mean, you have to be affected by that, especially with having capital and stuff like that. So you're like, and they're going through. Racism right up front. You can't. Maybe you didn't go through the Vietnam. You didn't go through the original Black Panthers movement or whatever. But here's a movie right here. You know what I'm saying? Had Central Park 5. That movie came out for them to observe.
Talking about something from the 80s
Right. You had the Green Book. You had Detroit. You had The Hate You Give. Even Who Killed Malcolm X.
Yes, and I love that. I personally, that was my favorite.
I was in love with Malcolm X.
That made me, I'm not gonna lie, that made me obsessed with Malcolm X and how important his life story was. That was a good one.
And of course, Spike Lee's movie.
Yes. The Bloods. You talking about?
Well, no, even the Malcolm X movie.
Oh, the Malcolm X movie. I still need to watch that. I still need to watch that.
You had American Skin, Queen and Slim. You have all this stuff.
I gotta watch that.
Queen and Slim was my movie.
Fruitvale Station, and now of course,
Michael B. That made his career. Right. Michael B. Jordan.
Judas and the Black Messiah is now.
Yes, I just watched that. That movie's ill. That movie's ill.
I didn't watch that movie.
So now, keeping in mind all of this, and then coming up in the era, we can say, okay, now we're in 2021, but in 2020, so many people died. One thing that we don't realize, because there's an expression, the Creator has a master plan. When people die, okay, as sad as it might be, it's also a good thing in the sense of the fact that you get an opportunity for, maybe you never heard of John Lewis, maybe you never heard of Cicely Tyson, maybe you never heard of David Dinkins or whoever it is, but now you get their whole life history in one shot.
Yep.
And now you're like, oh wow, I didn't know this person.
Inspired.
Wow, you know what I'm saying? So now you like so now you're just as up on that individual. Even when Michael Jackson died, there were some people that only knew the Michael Jackson after he changed his appearance.
Skin color. But we remember original Michael. That's the we love.
But even in that, let's look at Michael Jackson from They Don't Really Care About Us. And let's look about Remember the Time, because see, one thing, people could say whatever they want to say about his skin change and everything, but when he did Remember the Time, there was no question this man recognized his history.
About it.
And not only did he recognize his history when he did that video, but he included Eddie Murphy
to play the Black Pharaoh.
Right.
He did. I remember that.
He included Iman. He included
Magic Johnson.
Magic Johnson. That's what I was trying to think
he was in the video.
He included, so this conscious, like when Beyonce did her video,
for Lion King,
right? This consciousness, the move that LeBron James did in his basketball career. When he first left Ohio, I mean, that was like, so Black Lives Matter. So you cannot tell me that this generation has not been affected by these things. It's just that they have to be reminded.
Yes, we do.
And they have to be directed in a positive manner.
Yes,
because I don't sleep on them. And now also we are in the age of technology, the age of YouTube. Somebody may say, "Listen,
a lot of resources."
I'm not really, into Beyonce. I'm not into, and they go YouTube, and they're like, now they have a bunch of young people who are now commentating and listening for the first time to, let's say, the Temptations or James Brown or
doing the history.
Right, they're doing the history. They're going back in time. So it's a matter of choice. There's nothing that you can't get on social media, that you can't Google, that you can't, so you can say, hey, listen, I don't want to hear that, but listen, I love this, man. This is serious. And it may be something inspiring. Maybe you say, man, this music is not saying nothing, but boy, when they came out with Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud, or Ain't No Stopping Us Now, or, I was feeling that.
And I feel like it's really important because, like I was saying before, right now I feel like it's a disconnect right now, and we need to bridge the gap between the elders and the youth, because I feel like for the youth need to realize and they need to understand that if you don't know your history, it repeats itself. And I feel like we need to stop slacking on that and remember the importance and don't take for granted all the blood, sweat, and tears the people
I was saying,
before us, our ancestors, because like it's for real. Like my mom, like she she always was like that growing up. Like she always told us like I remember when I was talking like this election, I was like, yo, I don't know if I'm about to vote.
Yeah, she went
this
hard.
election looking crazy. Even these past 8 years, I mean, well, the last election, 2016, and this election, yeah, she was like, you gotta vote.
Because you know what?
We died.
Yeah, yes, that's what I'm saying.
Died.
We forget sometimes.
Yeah,
we forget about the history that blacks have fought for us.
For everything. So for us not to, you have the God-given right. And you're not even going to take the duty that, you know, these people fought for is like a spit in the face to everybody. So
it is.
We gotta, the youth has to take a time to like learn their history. I feel like that's a major important because I always been like, but I thank God that I'm one of those young people that are open to that love history. So I feel like it's very important.
Well, let me quote this. This is one of my favorite songs, and during Black History Month, I definitely cited it. And it's by a group called The Main Ingredient, which Cuba Gooding Sr. became a member. But this was the last song by the original lead singer, and who wrote it. And just before he died, his name is Donovan Pearson, and it's called Black Seeds Keep On Growing. And I think this is very relevant what it said. And this is my national anthem. I'm sorry. Okay. No disrespect to lift every voice and sing or anything else. But it starts up and says, "Speak, drums, tell the real story. For the people who were condemned in slavery time, their brothers and sisters for being ignorant. Listen to the story the drums tell. They say, you, black man, should love those brothers and sisters even in death, because their valiant struggle for life made you what you are today. So keep on growing for them, in mind, in body, and in soul." And then it proceeds to say how the seed was planted in a big, uncultured land, planted by a black, uncultured man. No one gave much thought to the black seed, and no one seemed to care about its need. Without water, the seed just couldn't last for long, so it fooled everyone, and it grew up big and strong. But it grew in soil that was so unfit to grow. Still, that black seed continued to grow. Of course, black seeds keep on growing, keep on growing, keep on growing. And on and on. Plants so close together they could hardly breathe. Exposed to the weather, it's hard to believe how a little black seed could stand up against the pressure and come out smelling sweet and looking fresher. So I always think about that. I always think about because again, this was his last message. Yeah. So that's even more important. Yeah. But that we have to make that, we have to build that bridge over that troubled border, and we have to reach out as one generation to the next. You know what I'm saying? Because there's so much we could learn from each other, and we have to respect. Because things you don't understand, you can put in context. Things you don't know, like even that little thing I said about when I introduced my name and said how I kept the name Ujima because it had this African roots, but at the same time I wanted to have the Muslim roots and show that they were one people. You know what I'm saying? And I spoke about how the first Arab was an African named Yarab. You know what I'm saying? And there's so many things. Now imagine the richest man in the history of the world, according to what they say, was Mansa Musa. He was an African Muslim. Okay.
Oh, he was Islamic. His empire.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Matter of fact, his story has everything to do with the story of this country because of the fact that he made Hajj. I just wanted to just share a little bit about that because this is how we know about him. And let me just see this here. Okay, let me preface it with this first. Let me say this. Okay, we'll get to the Mansa Musa. Now these are two dates. I'll give you a little history lesson. 2 dates that I know there's nobody listening that's not going to forget these 2 dates. Okay? 7/11 and 1492. If you forget 7/11 and 1492, something wrong with you, brother. I'm sorry. Okay. Now in 7/11 of the Christian era, the African Muslims, who were recorded in history as the Moors, established an Islamic empire in Spain, Portugal, Sicily, and the southern part of France. That was the last until 1492. The Moors laid the foundation of civilization in Europe, established the silk industry in Spain, inspired the Renaissance, prevented the Greek classics from being lost in history by translating them into Arabic, made countless advances in mathematics and science, including algebra and trigonometry, animal care, hydraulic engineering. They introduced bathing. Let me say that again. They introduced bathing to Europe.
Because of the Black Plague.
Okay. No. Listen, this is a little side note. If you have parents that, particularly fathers, whatever, that participated in World War II and they went over to Europe, they will tell you, and I'm not exaggerating, that those people know about bathing and they would defecate out the window.
Oh God.
Damn.
Right.
Oh,
I mean, when you think about the togas, and I learned this in investigating history of Thanksgiving, the togas were just, those people were so filthy that they would walk down the street and defecate. And the togas were just something they wrapped around themselves, and they would be talking and defecating at the same time and going, this is how they were.
Oh, man.
These black people, who were also Muslim, and both of them are equally important, okay, introduced bathing to them, as well as street lights and paved streets. And they established over 17 universities and over 70 libraries at a time that Christian Europe was 99% illiterate. So now, so tell us what savages again.
That's a fact. Who are the real savages?
Right?
And who are the real civilizers?
Come on now, there's no way in the world you can say we're shiftless and lazy when you went millions and millions of miles away to go get us. And do all your dirty work, even clean up after your children.
That's some shit.
While you sat in the big mansion and cracked the whip. So who is the shiftless lazy? You know? But now, going back to Mansa Musa, because this is important also. Okay. In 1324, okay, and Mansa Musa, who ruled the Mali Empire from 1312 to 1337, led a caravan of 72,000 people, a distance of 6,496 miles, across the Sahara Desert to perform the pilgrimage to Mecca, where they hired what we call sheikhs or Islamic scholars to come to Africa and teach their people Islam. Along the way, they built mosques and schools. They organized Egypt's economic relations and foreign affairs, and changed the economy of every country they reached. Changed the economy of every country they reached. Now, they showed their gratitude to the Arabs by giving them some of the gold they had carried with them to establish their government. And on that pilgrimage, he was asked by Ibn Amir Hajib how he ascended to power. He then replied that he succeeded his brother, Abu Bakr II, who ruled from 1307 to 1311 and left in 1311 for what we now call America, with 2,000 man ships and 2,000 ships of supplies, water, and gold.
Mansa Musa.
His brother.
His brother went to America before Mansa.
And his brother went to America and left Mansa to rule in his place.
Okay. That's how Mansa Musa came into power.
He said if he did not return after a year,
it's yours. The throne is
right,
yours.
there you go.
Got you.
Okay. Mansa's wealth and popularity, even as far as Europe, eventually led to the Europeans' decision, I personally believe, to enslave our people so they can get their hands on Africa's riches. Now, let me just say one other thing. Now, he is recorded in history, and I'm not saying that Solomon, or Suleiman as we call him, wasn't as rich or richer, but Mansa Musa was definitely one of the richest people in the history of the planet. Let's compare what he did with his wealth and his riches with what another rich person by the name of Donald Trump did with his wealth and riches. Okay? And now we see the difference between character and positive interaction with people, community responsibility. Because this man had all that wealth. Man, he could have, you're talking about stimulus packages. Man, we could have had stimulus packages, without a pandemic.
Yeah, that's a fact. That's a fact.
You know what I'm saying? When he addressed and made that statement, black people, you should vote for me, what do you got to lose? We should have been getting something then. We shouldn't have to talk about reparations. He was like, yo, no big thing. Get that out the way. Okay, next. You know what I'm saying? Senior citizens shouldn't have to be worrying about, or ex-military people, veterans, or other people, because he had no sense of accountability except to himself and those people who were loyal to him, which of course we know in the end he jerked them anyway. You know what I'm saying? But Mansa Musa, let's look at him. Look at what he did. he spread his wealth amongst the people, so much so that in every country that he went in, they changed the economy. Now imagine you living in a Harlem, you living in a Bed-Stuy, you living in Roosevelt, whatever, you living in Watts, you living wherever, and somebody wealthy like an Oprah or whatever, you know what I'm saying, got that kind of money, says, comes through and says, yeah, here, just like she could do with the cars and stuff like that. She said, here. And she changed the economy of Watts or Detroit or Chicago or Newark or any of these places that we're talking about. You know what I'm saying? This is how we have to do, and this is why history is so important. We have to have those kind of examples. You know what I'm saying? So that we know. And I'm not saying we don't have black people who do that. I mentioned Julius and what he gave back to Roosevelt, and he equally came from Hempstead, and he's giving back to Hempstead as well. You know what I'm saying? We talked about Jim Brown, come from Long Island, and look at what he did. You know what I'm saying? Oakland Fire alone is powerful. I mean, you know what I'm saying? But I mean, he did more than that. And those who saw the night in Miami. This is another movie.
I gotta watch that. Yeah.
Okay, with Jim Brown and Sam Cooke and Muhammad Ali. And who was the other person?
And
Malcolm X.
Malcolm
X.
Yeah.
They had gotten together. You know what I'm saying? This is again an example of unity, but they had made a commitment. You know what I'm saying? But we also have to know that we have to have enough values and principles not to let anything stand in our way, because within that year of that meeting, Sam Cooke was gone, Malcolm X was gone.
Wow.
You understand what I'm saying? But Muhammad Ali, he stood firm, and he stood up against, at the time that it was not popular to go against the war effort. He was like, no, I ain't doing that. I got values and principles that supersede what you're talking about. You understand what I'm saying? And people still listen to Sam Cooke's Changes Gonna Come.
Yep.
But a lot of people don't know that he recorded that.
From Malcolm put him on.
He recorded that, and the record company did not want to release it.
Wow.
And they only released it after he died.
Wow.
I heard like, that's why I brought up Malcolm just now, because I heard that's where he got like Change is Gonna Come, because he was having a conversation with Malcolm. Malcolm said that phrase, and that inspired him to make that track. Am I wrong?
I would have to ask Jim Brown about that. You know what I'm saying? But I can say that that unity. Now you look at Muhammad Ali in the meeting that they had with Jim Brown and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and other sports figures, and how that influential that was. And then later on we see that with LeBron, you know what I'm saying, and all the people that with Colin Ferguson, Kaepernick, who stood up, you know what I'm saying. And again, that's another example of, we talk about young people this era. Look at this is the stand they took. When we talk about Black Lives Matter, we talk about Michael Brown. Let me say this. You would know nothing about Michael Brown if it hadn't been for the young people that lived in Milwaukee, because that was their movement, and there were no older people involved in it. So they let it be known. So in terms of having faith, of course I have faith in them. I was a young person, and all you need is direction. And I'm just to say one thing about social media. Okay, I mean, it was nice of you to say the things that you said about me, and I appreciate them. I have a young brother that was like my protege, and he asked me to a friend of his. They happened to be from Union, which is close to. This is where Busta Rhymes came from, right?
Yeah. Got you.
Okay. So I went and looked at his page, and it was like,
hold on one second.
Sure, no problem.
There you go.
Okay, so it's important to reach out to young people, and they have that connection. You know what I'm saying? Because of the fact that you have something that they need, and they have something that you need, and you can only grow like that. You know what I'm saying? We have to know that it's not, that you have to have men. One of the things, if you're going to, so you could, when Black History Month comes, it's usually always the same people. We're talking about Harry Tubman, Frederick Douglass, Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, Malcolm X, like that's the only people that ever mattered. And I'm not putting them down at all. I'm saying there's so many more people, so much more, and I was getting ready to say, let me get back to what I just said, but I wanted to finish that point. That the friend of mine, he asked me to, friend this person on Facebook, and I went to his page and I saw all this negativity and stuff like I really couldn't relate to, and I'm like, you sure you want me to friend this person? And he said, yeah. I think you're gonna have a positive impact. So I inboxed him and I said, listen, so and so asked me to friend you. I said, but I'm going to tell you right now, you are not going to mess with my reputation. I'm not with that negativity and this, that, and the other, boom, boom, boom. Okay? So, you don't have to get your program together. And you know what? Next time I look at this page, he has none of that. And he has not had any of that ever since. Mm-hmm. So don't ever think that you can't influence somebody. Don't ever think that you can't impact that person. You know what I'm saying? Don't ever give up on your people because somebody didn't give up on you. You know what I'm saying? Somebody implanted. And even, and we'll go back to, the era which I grew up in, which our elders were recognized and respected, and we wouldn't dare cross and say the wrong thing around them or what have you, is that when I say elders, I'm not even just talking about respectable people, because of course we have respectable people. But back then, you could have a drunk on a step, okay, drunk as I don't know what, and he call you and say, "Come here, young man," and you like,
"Yes, sir.
Yes, sir." Yes, sir. And he said, "Listen, don't you ever turn out like me."
See, that's real. That's real. He'll tell you as he's drunk himself, "Don't be like me."
Right. And you be like, "Oh, all right."
So we want to get. We get into the last leg.
Okay.
Of the episode. So I want to finish off the episode with like a few questions that can that can help the young people.
Okay.
So tell us what are some life lessons or some some game, some jewels that you can give to the listeners that will help them, for the youngins. We really do this for the new generation. What is something that you can tell them that can help them?
Okay, well, let me first start off with the first word that was revealed of the Quran, because I read a book and it said that this word, the first word that was revealed of the Quran, revolutionized Africa. Okay, so and this word was read. Every Muslim knows this first word, Iqra. First word revealed in the Quran. Read. Read in the name of our Lord who created you from a sperm drop, by use of the pen. Taught men by the use of the pen. Mm-hmm. So reading is very important. And it's not just reading to be reading. You know what I'm saying? If you're reading a book or Who's Making Love to Your Old Lady while you was out making love, or some other 60s, 70s song, similar, if loving you is wrong, I don't want to be right. To me, that's not reading. Learn your basic skills, man, and learn and dig deeper. Don't ever think that you know it all, and don't ever think, he's Muslim, he's this, he's that, I got what I got, and I don't need to know nothing about it. No, because you need to interact with that person. Whether you with their program or not with their program, learn their program. You know what I'm saying? And you'd be surprised how many Hispanics that I run across. And because I can say a few words, in Spanish, that they have a different respect for me. Mm-hmm. They have a different feeling for me. Enséñame lo que le gusta. ¿Qué pasa? And so forth and so on. I mean, why should we restrict ourselves? I'm not learning that. They came to this country. Let them learn our language. No.
Man, we all one people, man.
The whole purpose of history is for us to have better relations and better understanding with the next man, from whatever culture or part of the world that he or she comes from. That's the real purpose of history. Yeah. So, and it's a shame that in this country, unfortunately, we don't learn history accurately. Everything is from a Eurocentric perspective. And because even to say America, how dare the United States call itself America? Exclusively, when Canada is part of America, Mexico is part of America, South America, Central America, these are all parts of America. You know what I'm saying? But we don't learn anything about them except in their relationship to the United States.
Yeah, whatever they use them for, and then
the oil, all that stuff. Yeah,
exactly. And do you know that most of the great moves in hockey came from black people in Canada?
We created hockey. That's a fact.
That actually came from America, and they went to
Canada. Scotia Nova.
Right.
Scotia Nova,
and there are movies and books on that, and I have all of them.
That's a fact.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, we need to learn as much as we can, and don't think, man, that's boring. I don't want. Listen. I used to have an expression: if nothing is happening, make something happen. You know what I'm saying?
Big facts.
And that's how we have to be. When you go to the school now, of course, now you have everything on. A lot of things online. You don't have the social interaction, but that's even better because as the person gives you the assignment, boom, 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 then you could be Googling and say, okay, now what's up with this Columbus dude? You know what I'm saying? Shakespeare. Okay, you know what? That's just like. Biggie made this song, and he was kicking.
I got you.
You know what I'm saying? And you mix it up. You know what I'm saying? Don't just think that this instructor you have has all the answers. You know what I'm saying? Because challenge that.
Yeah, you got to question everything. That's my principle.
Right.
Question. Whatever somebody tells you, you go research whatever they tell you. Make it. Whatever you got to do that. That's a fact.
Whatever you see on YouTube, whatever you watch.
You got to question everything. That's a fact.
Look for the evidence and look for the proof.
We have unlimited resources right now,
and that's how these famous philosophers get known because they keep questioning everything. Now
I also wanted to ask you a question. I actually like.
Okay.
What change do you see in yourself compared to the last 10 years?
Oh,
10 or 5 years. You can give me.
Well, in a sense, that's an easy question, even though I really didn't think about it. But and that's growth and development. One of the things I learned, and I have one of the best teachers that I could possibly have. That I've had in the past. One was called Sheikh Al-Fahim Job, Rahimullah. He was from Africa. He was from the Gambia, and he was the nephew of Sheikh Anta Diop. And he really opened, my mind. And my current teacher, Imam Dawood Ramadan. One of the things he taught us, because Islam is so vast, and it's constantly you're learning. Okay, one of the things about the Creator, and we cannot ever take the Creator out of the equation, because we're here because of Him.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He is the reason why we breathe every day. There's no one on the face of this planet that should not be grateful for surviving 2020.
That's a fact.
If you want to put it surviving Donald Trump, I don't care how you put it. You know what I'm saying? You survived 2020. You got your health. You breathe.
That's a big milestone.
You understand what I'm saying? And that's due to the Creator, the same one that brings the snow down, or the rain down, or withholds the rain or the snow, or what have you. But one of the things you'll learn about him, the Creator, is he is one of his favorite name. Okay, and he has many names. Like I said, he's the all-seeing, the all-hearing, the all-knowing, all of that. Okay, he is our Rabb, and that's spelled R-A-B-B, Rabb. And Rabb means the Creator, the Nourisher, the Lord, the Nourisher, Sustainer. The one who nourishes and sustains His creation in such a way so as to provide them with the things they need to grow and to develop on their own. Now I'm going to say that one more time.
Please.
Because it's a mouthful. All right? He's our Rabb, our Lord, Nourisher, Sustainer. The one who nourishes and sustains the creation in such a way so as to provide them with the things that they need to grow and to develop on their own. Now, why is that important to understand? Because of the fact that, see, the philosophers will tell you which came first, the chicken or the egg. They waste your time with that nonsense. Okay? When in reality, we find in that definition of who created us that we are intended to grow and develop. We are nothing unless we grow and develop. If we're not growing, we're not developing, we have not done our job.
Yeah. Not at all.
We are wasted space. You know what I'm saying?
You're either building or destroying.
Yes.
Either or.
So that's important. And He nourishes and sustains us because we can't do it all. I mean, all of us have needs. You understand what I'm saying? We need the air, we need the water, we need you get certain age, you have a need for, you know what, and other things. You need food, you need, shelter. You need all these different things. So we need it, And there's no way we can deny the existence of the Creator because of the fact that, there are things beyond our search. Just like even it's something that people missed. And I just learned this, yesterday, Friday. and that is that one of the messages of Jesus is so important, as well as his mother, was the fact that it was a sign that there is a Creator, and that because the things associated with them, a woman being a virgin, and having a child. You understand what I'm saying? Or a child coming into being without a physical father is a manifestation that there's more to this, than what a human being could. It has to be something beyond that, something greater than ourselves. You understand what I'm saying? Because we couldn't do that. There's no way we can do that. We could, Mary was great and all that, but she couldn't do that without the Creator intervention into that situation, controlling that situation. So we have to look at it like that and not worship that person, but understand the sign that person is to see who we're worshiping. Like Bruce Lee has this famous expression that he said, look at see the finger as it points to the heaven, concentrate too heavily on the finger, and you will miss the glory of the whole heavenly creation. So there's a lot we can learn if we observe. Now you ask me how I've grown. I've grown with knowledge. I've grown with experience. I've grown by looking at how what I've done has affected other people. You know what I'm saying? Coming out of Roosevelt, one of the good things about social media, I've learned social media. You know what I'm saying? And we have a site. We have a site called Roosevelt High School Mental Midgets, and with some of the white people who grew up in Roosevelt, they are on that site, and they contribute heavily to that site, as well as the black people. But there's an experience that they have and knowledge that they have that we couldn't possibly have, that they share with us. And coming up in the era that I did, it makes me a little bit more universal. So I'm able to relate to them in a way that may be different than if I'm just kicking it with my brother over here, or my sister over there, that I can. Because there is a common denominator with us all. Just like we learn in mathematics, there's the least common denominator. So what is the least common denominator in your relationship with this person? And this is one of the things that I taught Eddie Murphy when I was managing him, because initially, of course, his audience was all black audience. So I said to him, okay, well, listen, we got to do this thing in Hofstra. Now, don't think that you can do the same thing you did at Roosevelt, what I'm saying? You got to relate to people that may not relate to certain things that you're talking about. You have to be more universal. You have to learn how to deal with a greater crowd. You know what I'm saying? And again, same thing when I had my DJ group, and we called this Spectrum. You know what I'm saying? One day we had to do a party for the black Republicans. Then they were Republicans and they were elderly. And so now I had to say, okay, well, how am I going to relate to these people? You know what I'm saying? We learned to do the whole spectrum. We did jazz, we did R&B, we did different things, with different people. So we have to learn to be diverse. We have to learn to be we have to, how to be diplomatic.
I agree.
We have to, we have to learn, you some things you got to keep to yourself. You can't tell it all. You can't sell out, cop out. You know what I'm saying? Do that. And we as a people have always had certain values and principles. So I always share with people, things like purpose, class, dignity, respect, honor, integrity, manners, character, morals, conscience, standards, having substance, having fortitude, persevering. You understand what I'm saying? Because now we're in a very great age, because a lot of times, all right, when we came up, okay, Mary Wilson from the Supreme, she just died. Okay, now, before she wrote a book, you didn't have many books on what these people went through. Yeah. You just listen to their music and that was it. But now, because she set the standard, okay, when she wrote her first book on her career with the Supremes, okay, now you can find the story of this one, that one, this one, that one, this one, that one, and maybe you could get some benefit from that knowledge. Learn some of the things, like when she signed with Motown, her mother couldn't read, so she couldn't read it all right. She couldn't understand the contract. She didn't have rights to the Supremes because it said in the fine print, okay, and I get whatever name the company gets whatever name you choose. You know what I'm saying? So now you should learn from that wait a minute, take that contract to a lawyer, and not just any lawyer, a music lawyer if you're dealing with music, or if you're dealing with landlord lawyer, whatever the area it is, it's that lawyer that covers that particular area. We should learn the lessons from these people. And again, that's how we need our elders. And again, I'm gonna just say this. That in the era that it came up, we can't talk about Michael Jackson without pointing back to Diana Ross because that was an influence on him. We can't talk about New Edition without talking about the Temptations or Jackson 5. And
everything has an impact.
And I'm saying you can't talk about Michael Jordan, without talking about Julius. So you have to go back to that previous generation and get that connect and plug in with that connect. I remember the story Smokey Robinson told when he first played, when his group, Song of the Miracles, first played the Apollo. And they were raw. They were like, yo, you didn't know anything about being on stage or anything like that. And Ray Charles, who of course we know is blind, and Jamie Foxx did an excellent portrayal of him.
Of course,
took them and said, well, let me see your note. He said, I don't have any note sheet. He didn't know how to read music or anything like that. I mean, he was a fantastic writer. He one of the best. Okay? I mean, just My Girl Alone is, hands down. Come on.
Yeah, Smokey Robinson, he definitely is.
So Ray Charles took him to the side, took the musicians, and said, okay, let me hear. And broke down the whole song to the musicians, note by note. So when they performed, the act would be on stage. And that's one of the things that we learn. Again, like I said, good and bad. Remember when I was talking about black and white? We used to have what we call the Chitlin Circuit. And just stay on the music thing for a minute.
Yeah, I know what that is.
Where a group, 10 acts or whatever, would appear together. In the
little small bars and stuff.
Venues and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Where it's basically black people, whatever. Okay. Now. And the height was, of course, when they reached the Apollo Theater. Later on, at the next level, with the Motown era, when you reach the Copa, and Vegas and so forth and so on. But at that time, it was the Apollo. Okay, so now you may say that's bad. Maybe the show was $2 to get in at that time, whatever. So they didn't get paid much, whatever. But here's something that they did have that you can't buy. Okay, because there were 12 acts or 10 acts or whatever it was on the same program. Let's say an elder person like a Miles Mabley or Pearl Bailey, whatever, took you to the side and said, listen, when you do this, make sure you do that. Or why don't you try this? Or why don't you, and they got advice from people. Or they learned how to survive on the road. They learned how to cook and how to stay together. And there was a camaraderie, even though, there was some competition on the stage, but still at the same time, it was like, you perfected your act. You perfected what you went into because you got that advice from the person from the previous generation. And so don't deprive yourself of that if you're a young person. And if you're an older person, don't deprive that young person of the opportunity to learn from you. Don't think, now I've seen some people make mistakes, and we all make mistakes. We're all human, and we have to understand that. We have to put the best constructor on things instead of doing the Wendy Williams National Enquirer route. You know what I'm saying?
I get you.
But what I'm saying is that we have to help one another. You know what I'm saying? People, when they hear the definition of my name, the first thing they say is, wow, you actually lived that, man.
I was just about to go. I feel that. You do live that. You live it.
You picked that one right. You know what I'm saying? And which is really funny because when I first was given the last part of my name, I said, I don't want that. And then one day I thought about it. I was like, oh, you know what? That fits. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just saying, well, have a goal. Have some objectives. And one thing, I'm going to share this. I watched this movie recently on black economic independence. Okay? And one of the things, this young person, he was 8 years old, and he said to his father, he said, why don't you invest in some apartment buildings where you can get some extra rent money so you won't have to pay for my college when we get to that part. And his father was like, "Whoa, this guy is this young and he's thinking like that."
Thinking advance and ahead.
But let's look at it. Let's look at the fact that instead of ending up with all the student debt, if you have you get some extra real estate or extra income from somewhere, and it's just designated to pay for your child's education, he won't have to be in debt to the bank or Donald Trump or whoever.
No, I agree.
He won't have to.
I'm not gonna lie, because I remember when coming out of high school with me and Miles, and we looked at our parents like, yo, what's up with that?
Yeah, when it came time for college, they didn't have no money.
Bro, that hit me with some heat.
That I was
thinking about that for a while. I was like, damn, son. So what? You expect me to go get this loan, do this? Now I'm coming fresh out of debt. I'm in debt.
Yeah.
You're already nowadays. Now you have that degree. It's already a struggle to get a job already because you still got to be active and looking. So now it's like you're not setting yourself up right. You know what I mean?
Well, again, I'm not gonna blame your parents. I'm not gonna blame anybody of that generation because it's the fact that there was that double standard. When you were white, especially Jewish, that community got together, and at an early age, you was programmed, you was geared to become economically independent, and you were handed, inherited wealth.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Nowadays, if somebody dies, let's say one of our parents, whatever, we got to struggle just to have the money to bury them. For real. Nevertheless, get money that you could pay for your college or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So we have to be taught and we have to learn.
That's what I'm about to say, yo.
You know what I'm saying? Like a guy by the name of Marcus Garvey, tried to teach us, and later on Elijah Muhammad and several other people. I'm not going to say they're the only ones, but we have to learn how to be economically independent and strive, so we can have our own, you know what I'm saying? Because that's so important. I don't fault them because we didn't know that. We weren't geared to that.
Yeah.
I remember my father who went to school, he in Manhattan, he went to some trade school. I don't know if it's in Bronx or whatever, but that's how the city is. You could, be in one borough and you go to school somewhere else.
Yep.
And he learned architecture. And he did very well in architecture, but then because of discrimination, they said, okay, all you blacks got to go to this school now. And he yanked him out of that, which is very similar to what happened, because you mentioned, going to trade school, okay, and the BOCES. And I couldn't help but think, just like I said, we had a planetarium at Roosevelt High School, but back then, all those schools, they had metal shop, they had wood shop, they had electric shop, they had ceramic shop, they had auto shop in the schools. And it was only when they decided, well, you know what? Let's ship them out to this all-white place called BOCES and take it around our school where we have control over it and pay these white people to teach us trade. And then we got to also pay for busing. You know what I'm saying? So, no, we had it, and we didn't realize what we had. Just like when I went down south to bury a brother, at a place down south that I spent 3 months the year prior. Okay? I'm going to conclude with this. And I, the first year I was in the white business district. And this time, I was in the black business district. It was dilapidated, boarded up, this, that, and the other, boom, boom, boom. So I was like, yo, what happened? And they told me integration. I said, what do you mean integration? They said, well, listen, before integration, we all had our own businesses, and we supported those businesses because we couldn't go to his business. Okay? And we supported one another. He said, but once integration happened, we felt that Mr. Charlie's ice was colder than our ice. But ice is ice.
I've heard that. I heard that integration may have been kind of detrimental to the success of the black community.
Yeah.
Well, Billie Holiday said it best. She said, God bless the child who's got his own.
Nah, that want me.
So I wanna end it here. But before we end it, I just want you to do this. Give us your upcoming what are your because this is we're about to post this probably like probably like 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now.
So give us like your upcoming
give us like some upcoming things like, and that's probably gonna happen in April. Let's say because we in February, so let's say what is some stuff. This is probably gonna get posted in March. So what is some stuff that happened late March and April that you have coming up?
Well, there's so many things that are going on. Actually, let me just say this. I do have a program in March, but I think it's like March 11th, and it's a Black History Month program. And the reason why it's in March is because of the fact that, we wanted to send the message that, listen, Black History shouldn't be restricted to just 1 month. Okay, so that's number one. Now, on January 15th, we had, and by we, I mean the National Action Network, which I am the vice president for the Nassau County, Long Island chapter. We had a youth summit, and the youth summit was phenomenal. We had people from different parts of the country, including a young lady who at 13 years old graduated from high school. And at the time,
you told me that you mentioned that. Yep.
At the time, here her name is Haley, and at the time that we had, she was in her second year of her second college. Okay, so this is the kind of, so when you talk about youth, I'm not just talking words. I'm talking about, we have some phenomenal people, man. You know what I'm saying, among the young people. And so we have that, and we're going to do that quarterly. So we want to have another one of those, and not to leave older people out. On January 27th, we had a forum for the older people, called Where Do We Go From Here? Speaking about issues.
What day? When is that?
No, I'm saying it took place. But we want to again have more because people are constantly demanding, interested. So we're really trying to build up our organization, but also build up the community, and that's so important. It's very important. I agree. So look for that. We have a Facebook page.
Yeah, shout it out.
It's called NAN, National Action Network, Nassau County Chapter. So look for that. My name is Ujima, Ujima, Jame, Jame. I have a number of pages, but that's my Facebook name page. So anything that's going on, we're gonna do that. If you have suggestions, we take suggestions. That's fine. You know what I'm saying? But I think this is so good with the pandemic because of the fact now we can reach out. We can have somebody from, from California. You know what I'm saying?
Just as, happening now.
Right. You know what I'm saying? A guy did a movie on Roosevelt, and and then he died, and it basically focused on the Eddie Murphy era on. But I want to do from the Eddie Murphy before that. In terms of the people that came out of Roosevelt, and other things. I'm very close with Central Park 5. I want to do something with them. And there's a number of people I want to do things with. So
there's big plans. There's still big plans coming.
Oh, absolutely.
Can't stop, won't stop.
We're definitely gonna be looking forward to being a part of that.
And
absolutely.
So I just want to say, I personally just want to thank you, Ujima, taking out the time and kicking it with us and just dropping a lot of jewels and giving us a lot of game because you put us on to a lot of stuff this interview, and I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Informative.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Not a problem. I appreciate knowing you.
That's what we like to hear.
You know what I'm saying? Because good people enjoy other good people.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And we're gonna end it right there. So I'll be your host, Finesse Leo.
I'll be Mac More Money.
And this has been Jewel Talk.
Jewel Talk.
Jewel Talk.
Jewel Talk.
Jewel Talk.
Jewel Talk. We supposed to do this?
Alright, we're gonna do it again. Alright, I'll be your host, Finesse Leo.
I'll be Mac More Money.
And this has been Jewel Talk.
Jewel Talk.
Jewel Talk.
Jewel Talk.
Jewel Talk.
Spitting up
the jewels, you heard. We out of here. Peace.